Building underwater in Minecraft has always been a nuisance, but with the release of the Mounts of Mayhem update, building underwater has never been easier. The introduction of the Nautilus mount means we can now get our hands on the effect Breath of the Nautilus, which grants infinite water breathing. So now is a better opportunity than ever to take our world building to the bottom of the ocean, because today we're building an Italian-inspired Fishman city under the sea. For this build, we're taking inspiration from the colorful coastal towns of Europe, particularly this one, Burano, Italy. Known for its lacework and colorful homes, its primary economy is tourism. Every time I build a new settlement, I like to imagine what type of economy they would have in my world. My dwarven city Ashgren, for example, exports all sorts of stones and ores. My orc western Tuskstone exports gunpowder and cattle. And I think the perfect export for this town would be all of the coral blocks and sea pickles. Building farms in the various towns and cities helps add immersion to the world and gives me a good reason to come back to all my builds. Now, the oceans in Minecraft are unbelievably shallow, so to remedy this, we had actually installed the Deeper Oceans data pack back in 1.20 to give ourselves more space to work with. Yep, these oceans are most definitely a lot deeper. I mean, look at this. It's gotta be at least triple the normal ocean limit, which is very nice. Oh, hello, sir. And look at all this coral. Now, in order to prepare for our underwater town, we're gonna need some proper equipment. So off we went to our dwarven mine, where we have a skeleton grinder to accumulate some levels. And after getting 40 levels, it was time to test our luck for some enchantments. All right, so we'll be needing Depth Strider on our boots, and then our helmet is gonna have Respiration as well as Aqua Affinity. We've got 40 levels to work with, so hopefully this is more than enough to get our 3 enchantments. I guess I'll take Affinity on the book. It's not the worst thing. All right, so there's nothing good for our boots and helmets right now, so I think we'll just take a gamble with Unbreaking on the boots, and hopefully we can get Depth Strider with it. Hey, let's go. And last but not least, we've got another Aqua Affinity for our helmet, but I actually do have Respiration on a diamond helmet somewhere in my storage. So if I just combine the Aqua Affinity one with Respiration, we should be set. Then we just got to throw Mending on both of them. And bam, scuba gear acquired. After getting our gear settled, it was time for us to find a proper location for our city. My world has these 2 oceans in the middle of the map, but I like to imagine them as massive lakes. So I decided I'd leave those alone for a twin lake city in the future. Off the coast of our orcish town, however, is a massive coral reef. And since coral reefs spawn in warm oceans, the water has a nice cyan color to it, which I think would be a perfect spot for our underwater city. So off of our mesa biome, we've got all of this coral right here. And look at that. Looking all beautiful. Now for the location of the city, I don't want to build it out too deep into the ocean like back there. So I want to build it closer towards the mesa so I don't have to travel as far. But since our orcish area is right here, I think it would probably be better to just build it right through here. And then eventually we'll probably try to knock this part of the river out so we can connect it. And then we can easily transport ourselves towards the coral city. The animations are all messed up right now, but I probably should have built a boat here so I could travel a little easier. Since we'll be building in the middle of the ocean, I thought it'd be a good idea to first build a boat for us to sleep on and resurface to if we needed it. So we built a small fishing trawler from the film Luca as our temporary base of operations. This is actually my first attempt at a boat in a more modern style, and honestly, I think it turned out really well. And the boat is now complete, and we somehow managed to get our hands on a fork. We got a trident. Now it's pretty damaged, so I will have to throw Mending on it in the future. But look at our little fishing trawler. It is actually a very tiny build, but it is very detailed, I must say. So we named our boat Lucia after the movie that it is based off of, which is Luca. So we just gave it a female name. And then we've got a nice little fishing net here using the iron bars. And then I did add a little bit of the copper. I do need to wait for it to weather a little bit just to give it a little more like a detail and, you know, texture. Once again, shelves are doing a lot of heavy lifting with these tiny builds, but we've got a little fishing area right here, and this is a fishing trawler, so we do actually have a fishing rod here. Ooh, don't want to lose that now. I figured for good luck, we should probably at least fish up one thing on here, and let it be a nice book. Please. Come on. Come on. It's a fish. Oh, and it's raining now, but we've got a little mini base here, basically. Got a place to sleep, place to store some things. Got some fish storage right there, which is very tiny, very inhumane. Little sitting spot back there. And then we've got a little bit of space here for crafting and storage. But to show you our commitment to detail, we got to go to the underside of the boat, because we use this glow lichen on the bottom to help resemble barnacles, which you will find on the bottom of boats. And it is very nice because it also adds a little bit of lighting to this area, because the drowned here are quite persistent. There is also an anchor down here. Now, anchors don't actually work like this. They actually lay on their side when they're functioning. This would be a very incorrect way for an anchor to dig down and hold you in place, but it looks better that way. Now, with the boat complete, the captain now says that we need to do some resource gathering, which this trident will help a lot with. All right, the last time I touched one of these was a very, very long time ago on an SMP, so hopefully everything goes well. Oh, dodge and weave, buddy. Dodge and weave. So we just gotta put that there. I'm pretty sure we just blow it up. There you go. Oh god. Definitely helped that I had a trident. And it's become nighttime, but we got 2 more we gotta do. After we cleared the ocean monument, we killed some more guardians, gathered some sponges, prismarine variants, and sea lanterns. And after that, went back to our dwarven yurts to get some nice colorful wool to help add texture to the coral. Look at that shot. Making this boat line up with the sun was actually purely coincidental, and I only found out it was aligned after I was doing my replay shot. But look at that. It is so nice. Gotta sleep. All right, but we gathered a few stacks of prismarine, the bricks, and the dark prismarine. And then we've also got a nice half stack of wet sponges. I didn't gather too many of those blocks because I do still need to make a guardian farm for that area. And I have a very cool city idea planned for that. So we're eventually going to have to build a farm for that area. But we actually have one more resource that we need, and that is going to be all of the various coral blocks. And the coral blocks are very annoying to gather because you need silk touch in order to get the actual block itself. But I think I'm going to decimate this coral reef right here, just because it's kind of in an area that I don't really care about. And yeah, I'm really only focused on keeping this part of the coral reef alive. So close your eyes, environmentalists, because we're about to demolish this thing. So we started blasting this coral reef to get a nice supply of coral blocks for our next build. But rest easy, because we're actually installing the craftable coral blocks data pack from Vanilla Tweaks to help prevent further decimation of the natural terrain. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised Mojang hasn't already made coral blocks craftable in the first place, but what can I say? But yeah, so we'll just have to build a coral fan farm in the town when we're done. Which, by the way, thank you Vanilla Tweaks, because gathering coral is an absolute pain, given that they can only be mined with silk touch. Otherwise you get the dead variant, which is actually very nice for stone variants. It really felt like I did a lot more damage in my mind. I thought I would be able to clear out this whole section right here, but I only cleared out this little portion right here, which is probably about a quarter of the little coral reef that I was talking about breaking down. But that little section right there took over an hour and a half, so We're going to call it quits here, and I think we have more than enough coral for this build. But we've got ourselves 2 shulker boxes worth of coral. This one's just the coral blocks, and this one is mostly just the coral fans and all that stuff. Hopefully this will be enough for the build, but I will have to see. If I really need more, I can just go mine some more. So to start the town, we're going to build a centerpiece, and I think it would be a cool idea to use this right here, the Heart of the Sea, to make a conduit. But a conduit is a pretty niche piece of content that I feel like we don't really use often. So I think it'd be a good idea to actually use it for once. But in order to build a conduit, we're going to need 8 nautilus shells. So let's go collect some nautilus shells. So we spent some time fishing on the trawler, hoping to get some nautilus shells. But after 30 minutes of fishing and only getting 1 shell, we switched up our game plan and went hunting for some drowned instead. I already had 4 nautilus shells from buried treasures in the past, so at this point we just needed 3 more nautilus shells. And after many slaughtered drowned later and an hour down the bucket, we finally got ourselves enough to build a conduit. Alright, so we got ourselves actually 9 nautilus shells, so we've got more than enough to build this conduit. And we also got another freaking trident, which is excellent. So now we can put Riptide on that one. But to make the conduit, you just gotta, bam, conduit. Now that we have the conduit secured, we can finally begin work on the town itself. And to start it all off, we're building a centerpiece to the town by using the conduit as a central statue. Conduit mechanics limit us to using only prismarine in order to get its effect. However, I did add bits of oxidized copper to give it a bit more texture, and then we also added some magma blocks underneath it to give it a little bit of lighting. Meet the conduit clam. It looks pretty derpy, but it's the best we could get with the shape of a conduit. Last thing we got to do now is to actually put down a conduit in there, so believe it should be like this. Yes. And bam, conduit is now done. Now, since it is at the 2nd stage, it doesn't actually harm the drowned. If it was at the 3rd stage, then it would harm them. But we went with aesthetics over functionality, so it doesn't actually harm the drowned, unfortunately, but it does give us this nice underwater effect where we can actually see things. So for the 3rd stage, you actually need 42 full blocks of prismarine surrounding this conduit in a 5x5 shape, but this one I only have between like 30 to 40, so it doesn't give me the full effect, unfortunately. But the 2nd stage does give me 63 blocks of range for this aqua affinity thing, like this conduit power stuff. So I think honestly that's probably more than enough for this town itself. Now, I should mention that this whole time I've actually still been playing on 1.21.10, but Mounts of Mayhem finally dropped a few days ago, which means we can finally get our hands on a Nautilus. All right, so we're now in the Mounts of Mayhem update, and you can tell because if you look at the sky, the clouds are now eh. And if we head into the water, we should be able to find ourselves a Nautilus now. Would you look at that? Look at our Nautilus. So this one is a very basic Nautilus, so I don't want that one. I want a coral version. So we're gonna look around a little more and see if we can find one. Oh yes, and I also added Riptide to my 2nd trident here. Got a Riptide Impaling and a Mending trident. We've got 2 Nautilus over here. Got a lot of Nautilus over here, actually. Are you corally? Well, would you look at that? Just our guy that we're looking for. Let's take a breath before we try to take him out. And there's an ocean rune next to him, so we're gonna loot that as well. Oh no. I can't kill the Nautilus. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now we just give him some pufferfish. And there we go. Let's go. It's actually not very slow. It's actually a pretty decent speed. Might as well get another Nautilus shell in case I need another. Oh my god, look at that. Another Nautilus shell. I've already accidentally dismounted a handful of times. Oh my, look at that. Another guy. Might as well. Oh. How could you? What? How did I? What? Okay, well, clearly you don't want to use a trident when you're on it, because somehow it said I slayed my own Nautilus for whatever reason. Oh geez. I think one thing I would change with the Nautilus is I would make it so that you can actually see that you're on top of the Nautilus, because there's already been a handful of times where I accidentally dismounted when I didn't mean to. So the reason why we left a hole in our net here is because this is where we're going to strap our Nautilus. And there you go. Look at him. Okay, so I goofed again and I accidentally slayed my other Nautilus. So definitely don't use the Riptide 2 trident on top of one, because it'll automatically kill your zombie Nautilus, or your Nautilus in general. So that's very unfortunate. So I guess that means we're just gonna have to put away our Riptide trident because it kills our Nautilus. But would you look at that? We caught ourselves a zombie Nautilus. And now that we have everything in place, we can finally start building this town. All right, so the first half of the town is now complete. And I'm curious what you think about the build style, because the city that this town is inspired by is very simple in its build style, because it's a lot of simple squares and rectangles in its shape. And the block palette is a very simple palette made up of the variety of coral blocks as well as their respective wool colors. But we also used a nice little trick where we used the wall section to help break up the monotony of the simple colors. So for example, we use endstone, sandstone, as well as some bricks. But also look at this window we've got for this area right here. We use some bookshelves, and then we put in some books to help make this like curtain effect almost. I also will say that building with the Nautilus is actually not as good as I expected, simply because I use the shift button and space button a lot. Shift to go like crouching and stuff, and space to jump and go upwards. But you'll notice with the Nautilus, you have to look straight upwards in order to move the Nautilus up, and then you have to look straight down to make the Nautilus go down. And because of this, I frequently dismount accidentally on the Nautilus, and then the Nautilus just kind of runs away. But for the doors themselves, we left the doors pretty wide open so that we can actually bring the Nautilus indoors. Now, there is no interior for these builds, but if you would like to see any interiors, do let me know. It's just a little complicated since you have to build with certain blocks because not many blocks will actually stay underwater. So it's kind of hard to add a bit of detail to the area. Now, if we go inside some of the interiors, we have two farms. We've got a sea pickle farm right here, a very simple one. This one is made by Cubfan135 and it gives you about 17,000 pickles per hour, which I probably won't need. But they also require a large amount of bone meal, which I did not anticipate. Alongside the coral farm, it's going to be using a ton of bone meal that I do not have in this area. So the small green building here is our sea pickle farm, and then going over here, this large red building supplies our coral fan farm, which you can see we actually did empty out the water for the top side just so we could fit the farms in. And this coral fan farm is built by Illyrio 3, which we did modify because we didn't need the crazy amount of stuff that this farm supplies. There's like a shulker loader here that gets rid of the shulker box, which we really don't need. I don't think I'll ever need that many coral fans. But this machine here produces 72,000 coral fans an hour, which is very excessive, but it's okay. So how the farm works is you just walk over to this area, kneel down, you just turn this on, and then it starts shooting out the bone meal, and then the coral fans just pop up here, and then you just got to use Silk Touch in order to mine all them out. However, I don't have any bone meal at the moment for this area, so I'll probably have to build like a bone meal farm potentially, or I'll just bring bone meal from another area. Oh, and another really cool detail here is this chimney, because the chimney is just these magma blocks, but they have these bubble columns going up, which kind of helps mimic smoke. So if we look from it from a small distance, you can see the bubble column go. However, the bubble column disappears after you kind of get a little too far, so that's kind of unfortunate, but still a very cool detail nonetheless. Now for this area, I want it to basically be a town square, and I think it'd be a cool idea to tie in a shipwreck into this area. So we're introducing our very first religion to our world, and that's the Church of the Cod God. For the next part of the town, we took an old build of mine, this Sky Lantern junk ship, and chopped it up until it looked like a shipwreck. In the Church of the Cod, shipwrecks are seen as sacrifices to the almighty Cod God, and the shipwrecks found at the bottom of the ocean are repurposed as places of worship. The broken mast on the ship almost looks like a cross, so I feel like it's pretty fitting for the scenario. The Church of the Cod is now complete, and this is where we deliver our sermon. Thou shalt not eat cod. Thank you for listening. But here is our shipwreck. The ribs of the ship are kind of like seating for the churchgoers for the Church of the Cod. And here's our altar. Look at that. Pretty cool. But coming outside, we can look at our actual shipwreck. Ba-bam. Now, I will say that I probably should have adjusted the build pad a little bit because I built this ship many years ago. I think 3 years ago at this point, so I'm not really sure why I added terracotta to this ship, but I guess it adds some coloring to it, but the coloring of it is not my best work since it is 3 years old. But I thought it was very fitting to have a shipwreck be a church because it kind of looks like a cross when you're looking at the mast itself. And then we did bone meal the ship to make it look like it's been overtaken by the underwater nature. But now that we've got the Church of the Cod fully built, we can finally build the rest of this build. And we're gonna be building 4 more buildings on this side of the town to fully make the town square. So the end is in sight because I'm slowly getting tired of building underwater. But let's build this thing. All right, so the build is finally complete, and man, this whole thing took an absurd amount of time. Building underwater is actually, I'm not really sure if it's that much easier than it was. I feel like to build underwater, you do have to utilize all of the things you get, so I'd probably recommend getting the turtle helmet, the conduit, and the Nautilus as well. And then obviously you also need the enchantments for your boots and your helmet. And that would make it easiest, but this was an absolute pain to build. But this is how the town looks without the conduit effect. And then once we get into range, we get this nice underwater, like, night vision effect. But I do love how colorful this town turned out to be. I feel like it's really hard to use coral blocks above ground. So this was like probably the only time I'll actually use the colorful side of the coral blocks. Now I will probably use the dead variants above ground, but for now underwater, we can enjoy the coral blocks how they were meant to be enjoyed. Leave me alone. Now, many Nautilus have died during the making of this video because the drowned here are very, very persistent out, as you can tell. I thought it would be cool to bring in some of the natural coral that you can find in the coral reef and just act like they're trees in this area. Now, obviously, I probably could do a bit more terraforming to this area because the place leaves a lot to be desired, but I think I'm done. I'm done building underwater, so we're just gonna bone meal little parts of it here and be done with this area for now, until we need to grab some coral blocks. Now, there is one more fundamental part of this build that we're missing, and that is homage to one of the absolute goats. Bam. Would you look at that? Anyways, that's all the time for this episode. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now.